Greetings and welcome to the 7th episode of Cities of Cyrodiil, a series where we try and fill the void left by the rather underpopulated nature of vanilla Oblivion's version of Cyrodiil, by showcasing 3 random city, village, and town mods each month, just to, sprinkle in a little bit of civilization to Cyrodiil's otherwise, sparse landscape. And anyway, as always, I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and we again have some really cool looking town and city mods for you today, adding settlements to a variety of regions across Cyrodiil, and of course you'll find down the links for all these mods down in the video description below. So let's go ahead and get started with our popular town mod of the month, which this time around is Solace By Mealmoran. And now Solace is a massive tree city that's home to a number of bosma along the southeastern side of Cyrodiil, not too far away from the Nibbin. And before we get too far into this showcase, I must confess that we're showing off the original Solace here. There's been a couple of revisions and updates made by other modders over the years of this classic mod, and I've included down the links to all of them down in the video description. But for our showcase, I wanted to simply provide a look at the original mod because it is, without question, even with its potentially dated flaws, a beautiful and incredibly scenic city to explore. Most first-time visitors will probably approach from the south towards Leowin, where they'll find a few buildings near the ground and staircases that lead up into the higher levels of the city here, with dozens of platforms built around the giant trees here, and numerous buildings, markets, and plazas spread out between them. And, so this is a pretty massive city, though it is, fairly spread out, covering a number of exterior cells, but anyway, I would say it's probably larger than any of the villages you find in vanilla Oblivion, and probably on par with a major city in terms of total size, which is, really quite impressive. And it does take quite a while to explore the entire city here, and again it is, really quite visually stunning, with all these bridges going in between platforms and trees, with people walking back and forth from one part of the city to another. It really is kind of magical in terms of appearance. And coming up on the main part of Solace here, while the town is spread out across several platforms, the heart of the city is up here in the northern section of town here, with a massive platform that's home to a number of the major services of Solace, including what appears to be a lift that goes down to the 4th floor. And I'm not exactly sure how many buildings there are on Solace, but I'd say it's probably about 2 dozen or so, making for a really sizable settlement, including a large number of NPC residents. That includes merchant vendors, quest NPCs, guards, and regular old townsfolk, though it does appear that the locals are running into issues with a band of goblins that have been attacking the settlement, and you'll notice some evidence of this the more you explore the lower reaches of Solace. Now, taking a look at the map here, you can see that Solace occupies a truly large territory, with 3 different map markers that'll take you to different parts of the city here. And otherwise, Solace isn't too isolated. The commute to Leowin is fairly modest, and there's a couple of other, nearby vanilla settlements as well. And in addition to being a fairly large city, a lot of the inhabitants also have new dialogue topics that provide a bit of history and background to this tree city of Solace, as well as a storyline that can be followed up and quests to do. Though, as noted by others, not every NPC will have these dialogue topics, and due to the sheer size of Solace, it can be sometimes difficult to track down a quest NPC. That said though, there's a fair number of quests to do, including of course quests to help out the citizens with the whole, goblin invasion thing. And I believe this might also lead to a couple of new dungeons as well. And for a town mod, Solace certainly packs a lot of features and a lot of content to explore. But taking a look at some of the interiors next, you'll notice the city here uses a lot of Reveal architecture, which is probably already, ideally suited for, tree cities, it has to be said. And these interiors are all pretty nicely finished, but, a bit on the plain side. And I must apologize for the annoying blur effect in the video footage here. I meant to turn that off, and rest assured, we'll, have it disabled in the next Oblivion video. And of course, as you might expect, there's a ton of residential houses and shops with a variety of services available in Solace, including an armory, a mage's shop, a tavern or two, and a few other services that you'll find. There's a lot to see in Solace, though most of it is really the exterior parts of the city. But supposedly, there's also a player house here somewhere, and more than a few services to keep you occupied. And overall, Solace is just a breathtaking, one-of-a-kind forest city, providing an amazing new location to visit as you explore Cyrodiil. And this is a large city with nearly 2 dozen buildings, including NPCs who go about their daily routines and try and survive the various little fights they get into with the local goblin population. There's also a quest line here with quests for you to go on, as well as a large number of services and shops to cater to nearly your every need, as well as map markers for fast travel. It's certainly different and unique from most of the other town mods that we'll be looking at today, and also a bit of a classic in the realm of Oblivion mods. I'd definitely highly recommend checking it out. Next up we have our new town mod of the month, which this time around is settlement to Cyrodiil-Silverfish Falls by Imhan123. And this mod adds a fairly sizable farming settlement near the border of Morrowind in a rather isolated area of Cyrodiil, near the headwaters of the Silverfish River. There's not really much in the way of civilization out here in vanilla Oblivion. There's not even any isolated farms or cottages that I can remember, so this helps to fill in a gap left behind by Bethesda, and adds a place to stop in at for, supplies when you're in the region. And anyway, there's a couple of farms on the outskirts of town here, and Silverfish Falls is a fairly spread out community, divided in half by the Silverfish River, with buildings on both sides of the divide here. And I have to say, this is just an incredibly scenic part of Cyrodiil, and the village is quite idyllic here in terms of appearance, blending in pretty well with the landscape. And now, since this is so close to Morrowind, you'll notice that the architecture here is a bit of a Shadenhall middle and upper class style of architecture, which fits in with that Dunmere influence from being so close to the water. And you'll notice that this village isn't entirely made out of farms. There's actually a tavern here, as well as a couple of shops and even a fairly sizable manor. And notably, the town fits in right along the hillsides of the landscape here on both sides of the river, making for a bit of natural verticality to the design of the settlement, which, as you guys know, is always something I enjoy. There's nothing worse for town design than to have everything on a flat, level plane, so having these steep arching streets, as well as the division here of the two sides of town connected by a simple bridge, makes for the sort of dynamic village environment that I just, absolutely love. And of course, there's also some great views of the surrounding region up here as well, which is always a nice little addition. And anyway, you can see the city on the map here, and it's again in a really remote area. The closest city is probably Breville, but that's really far away, though thankfully the town does come with a map marker, so you can fast travel there quickly and easily. Now, to check out a few of the interiors here, you'll of course find a smithy shop, which is a handy place to stop in at to buy a few weapons or some basic armor, and of course the smith here can repair your gear as needed, which is a handy service to have out here in the boonies away from civilization. And here you can see the manor house, and these are all, fairly well finished interiors, though none of the NPCs here, at least as far as I can tell, have any new dialogue or, things of that nature. This is mostly just a new immersive and atmospheric addition to the landscapes of Cyrodiil, adding some more and much needed civilization to add some realism to Oblivion, since this is, after all, the capital province. But anyway, there's also a general goods shop with a merchant that has a number of goods available for sale, as well as nearly 1,000 gold to barter with, which is, fairly rich for Cyrodiil, so this is a good place to stop in at and unload your, loot from adventuring nearby. And one last interior to look at here is the tavern, where you'll find a number of NPCs, including locals and some travellers from out of town hanging around. And naturally, you can buy food and drink here, as well as rent a bed for the night. And I don't believe there's a player home here, so renting a room is about the best you can do in terms of getting some private quarters. And overall, this is just a really beautiful and scenic village in an isolated part of Cyrodiil that includes a number of convenience features, with a tavern, general goods shop, and smithy to stop in at while you're out, travelling in this region. And the town, of course, has a map marker, and it really is a sort of immersive addition, adding another farming settlement to the landscape to provide Cyrodiil's ever-pressing need for food and other supplies. If you're looking to add another town to your game, definitely, consider giving this one a try. Finally, for our underrated town mod of the month, we have the Great Forest Market by RegentEagle. And now this is a rather interesting mod that's a bit different from the others in today's lineup, and basically it's a fortified village and market out in the Great Forest region, right next door to Castle Westfield, and yes, they do actually conflict. There's a bit of a terrain conflict between the two here, so don't use both at the same time and you should be fine. But anyway, this isn't a big village or anything. It only has about 7 or 8 buildings in total. But the unique thing here is that pretty much every building in this village is a shop of some sort. And this is really a pretty big merchant hub that includes a number of unique items for you to purchase. But more on that later. Despite being a somewhat underrated mod, it is a rather scenic and cool looking little town, I got to say, with a lower level buildings divided along 2 streets that goes around in a circle here, and an upper level that sort of, splits across the town, connecting the, various fortified sections of the wall here, with little outcroppings for, smaller wooden structures and viewing platforms. And indeed, a number of these huts up here are actually living quarters for the various merchants that call this town home, making for a rather unique addition indeed. Now, personally, I really like how this village looks. It's different, but in a good way. And the giant mushrooms here and there from Shivering Isles just, adds to the unique charm of this place. And taking a look at the map here, you can see this town is right in between Skingrad and the Imperial City, a little ways off the main road, and of course it does come with a map marker for fast travel. Now we're moving on to some of these interiors here. Pretty much every building of note in the Great Forest Market is of course a shop of some kind, and there's a ton of different services here, from enchanting services, magical items, to potions, weapon shops, armor shops, general goods shops, ingredient shops, and so on and so forth. Most of these merchants are fairly wealthy as well, with between 2,000 and 5,000 bartering gold typically speaking, enough to handle, most of the loot that you're trying to get rid of. And most of these shops also typically have some sort of new or unique items for sale that you can find in their inventories, whether it be an enchanted amulet or some sort of new weapon or, some other item. And there's also a number of quests here that involve helping the various local merchants with some odd task or another, such as, for example, a mage that accidentally set his shop on fire and needs you to, run inside and put out the flames. Which is easier said than done, since putting out the fires will spawn flame atronachs who will immediately attack you and try and prevent you from putting out the rest here. And needless to say, there's some fun creativity going on with the quest design here, and this makes for a nice, if potentially dangerous distraction while you're in town. And there's also some other, odd quests here and there given by other merchants. And overall, this sounds a really nice bit of flavour and purpose for the settlement, aside from, being a mega shopping centre, of course. And one last interior I would like to drop in at is the tavern, since of course there's a tavern here, and it should be noted that each of these interiors is really nicely finished and detailed, and also I would say rather atmospheric, with the interior lighting making each shop just feel a bit unique. And overall, this is just a really cool looking settlement in the Great Forest, with a unique design and lots of services provide for nearly your every want and need, including weapons, armor, potions, and much more for sale. The town does come with a map marker, as well as quests to keep you occupied, and this is just a really fun village to, visit and explore, with a fair amount of content packed in. I'd highly recommend checking it out if you're looking for more to see and do. And anyway, that wraps up all the mods we have for this week's episode of Cities of Cyrodiil. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.